get ready to throw down.
Awesome. So we're rolling, right? Okay, cool. So today we're here to talk about
What's the date? Are we going to talk about the date?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. It is March 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
Oh, fuck my life.
We're in here recording. It's 9:45 at night. We've had a couple of drinks, and we're going to talk about the coronavirus.
Yeah, this is what we do on a Friday.
What's it
the 13th.
actually called? It's the coronavirus. Is
COVID-19?
There we go.
Yeah. So
You mean to tell me my favorite beer's got a virus?
And can I clarify? For probably everyone knows this, but so many people have said, so it's the 19th. Was it 18? No, it's 2019 is when it originated. That's the reason for the 19th.
Oh, it's nice
So
to have
many
some
people- I
facts
heard-
on the podcast.
No, no,
Well,
I didn't even
I-
know that. To be honest with you, I really didn't.
Oh, are we supposed to be shocked? I'm, like, oh my gosh.
You're just a
Dr. Daniel
chiropractor.
didn't
You're not a
know
real
something.
doctor.
You're kind of just below a dentist.
Can I get a please?
What's up?
Thank
Oh, now we both got corona.
Exactly. Both of you guys burn in Corona hell.
Okay, so that was another thing. Did anyone listen or watch the what is it? The address today, Dr. Trump?
He's also a chiropractor.
Exactly.
I'm pretty surprised
He's an
that they asked me
optometrist.
about
Yeah.
how much I know about this when I know everything about this.
Yeah, I can adjust your spine like no one else. I've got the best hands when it comes to this stuff.
So
No, but-
anyway, what I was going to say was everyone was, the reporters like, you shook their hand. You are shaking. You are a bad example. And I was just like, really? Are we just digging? We're just looking for something to
Yes.
complain about.
Yes.
I hope
Yep.
he
I was just
starts doing the
laughing.
ankle bump to everybody on his staff.
Ankle bump.
You know,
I don't know
hands
what
up.
that is.
That's the way you're supposed to greet people
You're
now.
supposed to like kick each other's
Yeah.
heels, right?
Never heard that.
Instead
I thought it
of-
was the elbow.
Well, the elbow got too risky,
Yeah.
so they
So you
had
gotta-
to
you
drop
gotta-
it down to the
You
ankle.
got to lean in on the elbow. You lean
Yeah.
back on the ankle.
Ankle, exactly. You get away from each other.
And then you sneeze right in their face.
But it's a heavy virus. It's a heavy virus. It dies quick, right? It's like a heavy slug to a guy like you, man. You just can't. The trajectory.
Tell a couple million people in China that.
Yeah, no
Mm.
doubt.
Oh,
Well,
the
but
guy-
there's, I mean, obviously their population density is a little bit different than ours.
and,
Sure.
and they eat fucking bats.
Well, okay, stop. Don't be xenophobic. Do not go
That's-
there.
Yeah, we don't agree
Yeah.
with
So
what
let's-
you just said.
Okay, so let's talk about it, right? Because we have been in since like 2011, right? We've been in a pretty long period of like economic growth, right? And it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
that hard to sell.
Probably since 2016.
Oh God, we're not going there.
Wow, you can see we're a divided
So-
crew. Anybody listening to
I
this?
love it.
Because
The
it
housing
did
bubble
start.
comes back,
I was
and
like,
then we're-
let me talk about 2007 and who was
hold
in
on.
office there.
Let's not.
And then
Let's not be.
the haves and have-nots as 2008, and we bailed out Wall Street, but we decided Lehman was going to die. But
So basically, what
I thought
Dr.
this was a bad
Daniel.
idea.
Bear
I
Stearns
had
was
no
going to
idea
get
how
all the
bad of
profits.
an
Why?
idea.
Because Paulson was
Who's that?
yeah, exactly. Young buck like you doesn't know. Yeah,
All
doesn't know
right.
anything
Sorry,
about
I
history.
was too busy fighting wars.
COVID-19.
Yes, and earlier we did make a point about every 2 years that we identified there was a virus. So it's not like
Oh, the Christian right wing.
I'm just
Stop,
saying, this is
man. I
not
respect
like this
you. Don't
new-
disrespect yourself with that kind of nonsense.
I'm just making a statement
So
that is a
bold.
fact. It has nothing to do. Okay, I'll stop.
Okay, did everybody hear that?
I'll stop. Go. Let's
So-
go to our leader at
And
the
the
table
S
tonight.
becomes a D.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we came up with this topic because I've actually lost a couple of clients because of this, right? They work with,
a real
drop
deal.
shippers and people that are getting their product directly from China. And since no one is fulfilling on that stuff and,
Right.
and manufacturing in China is essentially kind of gone, they can't pay them and they can't pay me.
Mhm.
And we thought it was kind of a cool thing to talk about because we don't really know what's going to happen. There's people on both sides that say, oh, this is all just like media spin. And then everyone else is kind of doomsday preppers. And then,
Definitely a level of uncertainty, right?
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Is this going to be a hiccup that we quickly recover from and becomes a windfall for everybody that can manipulate the spine or the not spine market, but the I try to do that anyway. The stock market and big business just taking guppies up and down. I mean, that crossed my mind. I mean, if we've seen the stock market plummet,
I think that is going to happen just because it's natural.
What's going to happen?
That when it goes in the tank like it has, right? You stop trading. People are going to take advantage of that. It's just going to happen whether it's...
Well, you have guys called market makers, and they own the book of business. And if all of us were sitting here, we would talk about what we could do to stimulate the market, right? So we could trade stocks, and we could get guppies to chase us into pushing the market or holding the market up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just so that we could offload to the new guys coming in all this, 401k stock.
Yeah.
These are market makers. So you got to understand the dynamic. And I guess that goes back to understanding sales. You have to swim in that fish tank, and you got to own the good and the bad, because it's great. It's easy to be a hero when everything's going 45 degrees across the scale, and it's all profit, like
and
you just alluded
budgets
to.
are huge.
Yeah,
right?
everybody's making more money along the way, incrementally. What do you do when crisis hits and you're in sales? That's got to be sort of scary for some people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think of all of us, you were working in the same field whenever the housing bubble was going on.
I made
and all
more
that.
money those years than because of stimulus, basically. And in healthcare, stimulus helps.
Interesting. I know a lot of other entrepreneurs, in the digital space and in tech specifically. It's not the same playing field as it was in 2000, even 12. Right. So a lot of these people have never sold.
How so? I mean, define a little more about what you say. It's not the same playing field.
So it's easier than ever to spin up a business, right? Shopify for like e-commerce.
Oh, ease of
and
entry.
stuff like
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Okay, I see what
There's 1,000 marketing consultants who can't actually market very well or generate leads, but they're out there, calling themselves this. And for, I guess since about 2012, right? Everything has been good. Everything has been ticking up. Budgets have been there. It's not really hard to sell. So I think that what we're going to see potentially, I'm not here trying to say that it's all going to be terrible or good because I really don't know, but I think you're going to see some people who are stalling you and holding out, right? Because there's already people that I know who are getting paused on deals because they're like, hey, we want to see what's going to happen with this whole thing.
I mean, I get hit with that in construction just on election years.
Let alone, we got a trifecta going on.
Yeah,
here.
let alone a crisis on an election year, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, for me in construction, it's the holdup is going to be the city governments. When the city governments, they kind of hold the keys to us getting things started. So you have to put your permitting through the city, them approve it for us to start. Like, you can do all the deals you want before that. And if they can hold it up for years, and sometimes they do, right? Yeah. So what happens when the city says, well, for example, Houston this week shuts down everything, the Houston rodeo, it's done. That's a huge event. There's people from all over the world coming in, concerts.
Everything is
livestock show,
South by Southwest.
Yeah, and that's just one example, right? So they shut that down, but that was ordained not by the rodeo, by the city, right? The city says, no, we don't want to hold this. We don't want to be the event that spreads this across the country.
Absolutely.
They don't want the liability. But what happens when they tell their workers, hey, don't come into the office anymore? How far back does that paperwork backlog start? How long does it build up? And then they come back. Let's just say it's a week, right?
Yeah.
A week of not doing anything. How long does it take you to catch back up? And in my business, my lead times are already a year. Sometimes 8 months, 18 months. I'm telling you, 1 week with no city employees pushing permits through, I may be looking at no sales the rest of the year.
That's crazy.
How's it going to affect you? I mean, have you thought that far down the road, or are you just kind of contemplating what does that really mean? Because it's all new.
Yeah.
I get it if you're not already.
I mean, literally yesterday was a Thursday, right? So that.
Yeah, it was.
Friday.
It took me a second, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, today's Friday the 13th, so yesterday had to be Thursday.
So just yesterday is like the first time I started seeing safety from our safety departments. Emails come out, don't do this. This is how you avoid it the best way you can. So I'm starting to see those emails, but then in 24 hours now today, it's like I'm prepping my guys to make sure they have access from home. Make sure you take your laptops home every night. We've got, like for my team, we've got them rented screens out from our IT department to take. They've already taken them home so that they have the same setup at work that that they do at home.
That's awesome, though.
So I'm preparing for it on that front, but it's not going to do any good if everybody that that I send bids to or do business with are also at home, and we can't go walk jobs and we can't go do these things, right? A lot of it it is cool that we're in 2020 and we can do a lot of this stuff on FaceTime and from our office. But construction, you got to eventually is in the field.
Put something up. Yeah,
eventually
you got to erect something, right?
Eventually, it's there, right? So it's a little scary for me, and I think I can prep for it a little bit, but I can't prep for other.
Well, it's the uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Well, so there's a lot of companies out there that normally are paid, but they're like allowing people to have free access to their stuff. Zoom for like teleconferencing. They're giving that away for free. Slack, Microsoft for Teams. So that way you can chat and you can.
Okay, but that's non-revenue producing. How do you make money?
I get that, right? It's not revenue producing, but these companies are trying to like reach out and like help like people work remotely, which I think is really, really awesome. I think that the thing that you're going to have to do if it kind of stays bad for a little bit, I think you got to prospect more, right, and adjust your selling cycles.
Well, I think you hit on something. I think you have to use other means of communication other than face-to-face encounters, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that social distancing, you have to do sales distancing, right, or distant sales. But I think you're a fool if you're not reaching out to all your clients, joining their struggle to get through this as part of their, somebody who's calling on them.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I mean, communication at this point is, if one company is taking it to the max, maybe one of your clients, their company is ahead of the game and they're taking it to the max and they're just saying, hey, we're forecasting that it's going to take 3 months and we're just going to shut down for 3 months. You got to know that, and you got to know that they know that, right?
So that brings up another point. If you're not out there talking to your existing customers first, would be my opinion, your best account, and engaging them on what the coronavirus means to them, and understanding how much they either think this is a problem or don't think. Because remember, as salespeople, you solve problems. Yeah. So let's focus in on what do our accounts. And not what we think, right? It's not about us. It's what are our accounts thinking about the coronavirus? How are they viewing this impact on their industry? And I think that's a direct question that you could literally pick up the phone and call anybody that you're doing business with. Because I know I did it in the clinical sense. I reached out to colleagues, constituents, competitors. How do you think this is going to affect us in healthcare? What happens if somebody walks in and they quarantine my office, right? And my revenue stream goes down. And what all these processes and procedures.
Well, I think that comes back to just like managing your book, or and managing your relationships and managing your territory, right? And here's the deal: you've got a great opportunity to call up everybody.
This can be amazing on the other side. It's going to hurt now.
Yeah, and when you call these people and you're like, hey, like what's going on with you guys? Like how are you guys viewing this? Are you guys set up for success? What can I do to help? You're separating yourself from everyone else who's just like thinking about themselves and not reaching out to them.
But let me caution you: do not make your accounts feel bad because they're unprepared about this. Support their position, huh?
How would that happen?
Well, I think it's easy to engage in a conversation where you start throwing stuff into the equation that makes the other person go, wow, I didn't think about that, or I wasn't prepared about that. This is a point where you listen to the people that you're calling on, and you want to understand, not tell them what you think the coronavirus, don't get too salesy about the coronavirus, or don't be the Trump guy. This is going to be great. We'll get through this. No.
I think the other is
and don't be a doomsday
as well.
either.
Right, where everything is falling apart. Oh my gosh, we're doomed.
I think you sit as a counselor and you say, I'm more flexible maybe than my accounts are. How and listen first, and figure out, because you're either going to come off as a flake by being overly concerned about it, and they're not concerned. So you got to mirror what you get from the other side, which is your account, as to how they feel about this. I think that's the best approach, personally.
Do you think that the mirroring makes sense if it goes against like what you fully believe?
Well, John, do you think it makes sense?
Well, I don't know, right? Because
I'm not sure either.
Well, because
hold on.
I totally do not think.
He's hooked. I haven't got him in yet.
No, you don't got me in yet. My walls are always up. I think it's a bit of a tightrope walk, right? Because you're gonna have strong opinions on one side or the other, right? Because that's just kind of how things work, right? We're pretty polarized and pushed to the edges, right? So you either think it's a big deal and you're talking to someone and they're like, oh yeah, we're not sweating at all.
But what do you do if you don't know?
Well,
sit
okay,
pat,
so
right?
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Next questions.
So yesterday I was in one of my big accounts, and I go in, and two of the girls were just, oh my gosh, can you believe? If I would have mirrored, it would have escalated the whole drama of the moment.
Okay, but you're not talking to the decision maker. You're talking about the staff. I'm talking about
It
upper
doesn't matter.
management or somebody.
In this account, it does not matter
Oh,
because
I think there's a little bit.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Finish your thought. So how'd you handle that when they were getting
so
all ramped up?
I kind of felt like a mother. I was like, when your child's going, oh my gosh, and like having a panic attack, you don't go, you're right. Yes, this is horrible.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy to do that. I was like, now what's concerning you? Just kind of get them to express what they're feeling, and then go, is that what you really think is going on? Kind of work it through with them. It's kind of like a little counselor.
Clint, how's that working for you?
I'm sorry, I blanked out.
That's all. Clint's head dropped down. Yeah, I thought he was about to nose off there for a second.
That's not true.
Okay, Clint. So how would you handle this?
Oh, well, let me tell you. No. So I said there's a little bit of concern there is like you don't also want to be the person that if they had a staff meeting after you walked out to where it's like, well, Clint came over today and you don't want to be that, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful.
That's what I was talking about.
Or like Nan. Oh, Nan was over here today and she was telling me all this stuff because now you're that person.
Exactly,
right?
and that's what I was.
And Doc was saying that. Yeah. Doc was saying that.
Nan said I didn't even have to wash my hands anymore.
Exactly.
And I would never.
Nan's in the healthcare field. You don't want that label.
Right.
The other side of it too is I want to go back to probably something in John's world here of the forecasting, right? Because you're a heavy forecaster, you're a heavy data log guy.
Yeah.
The caution.
No one's got data on this, like at all.
You're right,
It's like
and
unknown territory.
so be careful what you forecast, right? Because it's unrealistic. It's a pipe dream. It could be, let's just say for me this month in March, and this may sound like a heavy burden to some, or maybe not, depending on who's listening. I have 7 million forecasted in sales this month, and that's a pretty
humble brag. Go ahead.
No, it's because, but that's not that. No, that was my forecast for this month because of verbal commitments. And,
okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's my realistic goal. I do have some concern with that 7 million pushing a couple months, right? But the problem is that every month after this month, I also have a nut to cover 2 million, 2.5 million. So if I push that and I say, okay, let's just push this off till April because of the coronavirus. Now in April, if it all does release, now I got to sell 9 million.
Yeah.
And then if I push it past that, now I got to set 11.5 million. You're getting out of your realistic goals.
I was
for
going to say,
yourself,
you just
right?
realistically can't ramp up to even cover that, right?
It would,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
you couldn't do the work to actually
if you
make
set
the money.
realistic goals for a 12-month span and it was 2 million and now you got to sell 9.
Yeah.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So what is your answer?
So my answer is you stick to the game plan that you set forth, right? Because this is unforeseen stuff that you cannot measure.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea. So don't push. Don't just say, "Oh, well, I give up on March." Don't use it as a crutch. That's what I'm saying.
But have a plan, okay, and be astute. That guys, you can't just go to sleep or vacation because it's just not good hunting out there.
So to that point, I think you said something. Reaching out to your customers is hugely important. First step is talk to your leadership in your company. You need, as a salesperson, whether you're a sales manager or you need to have a conversation with your sales team or to your leadership of your company, this has to be a topic of conversation to say, guys, I projected 7 million in sales this month. This is something that's unforeseen. I think we'll hit this, but just in case we don't, what's our backup plan? Are we lowering the expectations for the overall year, right? So that in March, April, May, I don't have to sell 11 million. Can we live with 5? Right? Is that realistic?
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is communicate. You've got to communicate.
Let me back up. And so you think that the quota system is going to be really that, because I'm talking about real dollars and cents here, not only to the company, but to you. Do you have the wherewithal to stay in the game and not make money for the next 6 months?
That's my point, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that has to be a realistic conversation before you even do any other projections.
And how do
right?
you do that? How do you feed your family, pay your bills?
Because you know that number. You absolutely know that.
Or you should.
You know what absolutely, you should. You know what your overhead nut is to cover your payroll, right? That's step 1. You should always cover that first. what is that number, right? Not profits, not surviving, not all that stuff. Is what do you have today that you have to cover on a weekly basis in payroll?
But I can tell you from my standpoint, I have to decide how long I can advance money for endeavors that are non-revenue producing. Sure. For sitting on our heels, or I got an employee that's quarantined because we're in frontline clinical. You know, you laugh about the chiropractic, but we also do family care along with musculoskeletal care. Nugget. There's the key. Nobody likes low back pain. It's a gold mine. Anyway, so cold, cough, and flu.
What was a gold mine?
Yeah,
exactly. Because now we have one coronavirus walk in, and now we got to figure out what the CDC wants to hear, how severe they are, blah, 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 do that whole workup, and then begin to quarantine. You know, what do you do when there's no money? Let me just put it to you that way.
So, I don't know that I have an answer for that, but I have another point to make, right?
It's called savings. It's called loans. Yeah. It's called credit. What's your value to people that can either institutionalize your pain, which is meaning float you a loan. And, you know, Trump, whenever he spoke to Small Business Administration, advancing loans, we've already started looking into that. The minute you hear something, if you're sitting on your ass, you're late. Yeah, if you're sitting on your ass for 30 seconds when you hear something, no, it's the dude breaking into your damn house. That's what's happening right now. We've got somebody kicking in our front door. It's called the coronavirus. You better straighten your shit up. You better tie it down, protect your kids, protect your wife, protect your family, protect yourself. And I only say that because that could be the extreme that we go to.
And I'm going to throw this out there because I'm going through it right now. And this was right before this all kicked off. In the last couple of months, I just had started the process of upping all my short-term disability, right, and my life insurance coverage. That was before this really kicked off. Now it's so important. And unfortunately, I'm still in like the approval stage of getting all that bumped up.
Yeah.
But the point of it is that these are the reasons that you do that, right? As an employee of any business, right? Is that if you were to get corona and be quarantined into your own home, this is that shit that you don't understand why you pay $7 a week into an account that you think you'll never use. Right. These are the times, and I'm not trying to sell insurance here. I'm just saying that this is the preparations in your professional and personal life that you should be doing.
Yeah,
I think that all these sales leaders who are just looking at results only, you know, they don't have KPIs, they don't have processes or anything else like this, and they're just going on, well, this is what my guys normally do, so this is what I can expect now. I think that those guys are going to be in some terrible spots, right? Because a lot of companies are telling people like work from home, right? So we're going to see how much these sales leaders actually trust their salespeople, right? To like actually go out and do their things. And all these guys who don't have a process and don't have KPIs and are just winging it, they're going to struggle. It's going to be terrible.
And to that point, you know, I told my whole team this morning, like, be prepared to not be here, because we can absolutely, it's 2020, we can absolutely do everything that we do here. And that raises up a whole nother question, right? Is that if you can do that, right? Why are we in a brick and mortar? You know, so that's a whole nother episode.
That's my soapbox.
Like that.
That's my, because I love the remote movement, you know, and there's a ton of tech companies and they do it really, really well. But a lot of them will let everyone else be remote except for the sales team.
Yep.
Because they want to like over
because they don't believe that
there's no trust.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's no trust because it's a results only environment.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's no activity counts, there's no KPIs or anything else like this. So it's just like, I hope you're working.
So I'm going to eat my words here a little bit on the sales team of I always talk about salaries, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that you should pay a guy for what he's worth and then commission on top of a base salary. I think that's a deal. In this situation, you're very fortunate if you're a 100% commission-based sales team, if you're a manager of that, right? Because I mean, not to be...
This is a windfall for you. Nothing sold, nothing paid. Damn.
But it helps.
Sitting on my big ass bank account.
But all the shit that you're talking about of like, oh shit, got to float the bill. I got to pay all these people. Well, hey, if you're results based, right? This is it's a touchy subject.
How does this feel, right?
But
I mean, how does it feel? Because I know you've come through the ranks.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't have that. I'm just saying that this is the one time that I'm going to eat my words a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
if you're the CEO of a company and your sales team is on commission only, then you're not sweating this as bad as someone who's got a sales team of 10 and everyone's got a base. Why are you not?
Because if you're really successful, you want those guys to stay around, and they may take jobs at Kroger's or Walmart or some big institution.
So many people don't view it the same way that we view it, which is why we're here, right? I mean, think about think about how many people you know specifically who don't trust their salespeople, right? And they kind of have that mentality of like, if I'm not on these guys, if I'm not all over them, they're not going to like do anything at all. And it's like, why'd you hire those people in the first place, right? If there's that little trust, why are you? Why are they on the payroll at all?
Well, it amazes me that
weakness.
What?
That's my biggest leadership weakness.
Is it?
What is?
You behave
I
that
believe
way?
everybody that's hired to do a job is professional. You're here to do that job, and when you don't do it, and I'm mind blown, right? I'm shocked when somebody comes to me like, "Hey, why didn't your guy do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know," and I have to go check in on that. Like, "Hey, why didn't you get this done?" Oh, and then the excuses flow. That's my biggest leadership weakness, because I feel that everybody that's in this office, I'm surrounded by, is a professional as I am, right? So I don't have that.
And I've made that mistake too, where I try to hold people to a standard that I set that they would have never set for themselves. And I'm like, and so, I'm a little disappointed. And I'm like, how did I go so wrong? I mean, I do blame myself.
And that's where I say this a lot. That's where I always go back to, the Marine Corps influenced my brain a lot in this situation. It's like everybody I'm surrounded is professional at what they do. So that guy covers that corner.
They've gone through the same process as you had along with you, so you understand it.
But you were kind of in a unique situation inside, right? Because
sure, but the point of it is that I've always taken that to the professional level as well, outside of the military into my professional life. I've taken that to where it's like, I trust that guy has that building corner locked down because I'm on the other corner, and I don't have to watch my back because that guy's there.
Is that a you thing or is that a D thing? Because I
think that's a military mindset.
Yeah, because I don't think that Ds inherently have that much trust for like other people.
It's the other way.
Yeah.
Right. I feel that I have to sit in the middle of the corners because I don't trust anybody on the corners.
Yeah.
That's a very inherently D trait, I believe.
Yeah.
For me, I've been washed a little bit on the military brain of I don't have to worry about that shit. So Doc just stole all of Nan's wine right from underneath.
Water.
Well, depends on what you
whether you're taking the Eucharist or not. Whether it's water or wine, right?
Who is this man?
Blood of
On this
Christ? Isn't that the representation of the blood of Christ?
Okay, so to that point very specifically, right? Question for both of you guys, right? Because I'm a very process guy, right? If I do something more than once, I will go make notes about like how I do it, so that way, if later on, whenever I go to like grow my team and I bring someone else on, I can be like, here's the treasure trove, here are the keys of the castle, go do it. And that's just how I think. But I know that that's not part and parcel of being a D or an I. So when somebody
not as formally.
Not as formally, sure,
but
right?
If I walk down this road and I make a left and I make a right and 7-Eleven's right there, whatever convenience store, probably stepped in it there, then I didn't write it down, but I know the pathway. So I'm like, okay, you just do this.
But here's the in my opinion, where that gets you into trouble, right, is your it's not documented anywhere, right?
Okay.
So,
but if I go up here and I make the left, there's a roadblock, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It is.
Where?
In memory bank.
My
Repetition.
neurology, right?
Well, it's in your memory bank, but it's not in their memory bank, right?
Okay, but my kids didn't know how to. They drank out of sippy cups, right?
I'll fight you on that.
And then they saw me drinking out of an open cup, and they're like, "No, I want to do that." And then I made them hold it with two hands. And then finally, my kids are in their 20s now, 19 and 21 to be exact.
Drinking out of sippy
and
cups.
now they all exactly. Sometimes
big old TCU sippy cups.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Emulation. Right? They see you do it.
Monkeys do this all the time.
Yeah.
They see because
I agree. I agree with that in certain realms, but I think in other realms.
In sales? Why do you double? Nanette, why do you and I walk into the same sales call then? Because sometimes we learn from each other about how to do it that way.
Usually he learns from me if anyone really wants to know.
There's no doubt about that.
Okay, just want to make sure we clarified that.
Keep on believing.
I think if it's not clearly lineated and written down, I mean, it's SOPs in the military, right? Like,
yeah, okay, but I don't feel that I need SOPs.
Well, but wait a second. Or you read it once and then you see. Hold on, because how many times have you had a chief go, really? This is the real life. It's like book versus street life, right? Healthcare. You go to school for however long to get your license. The reality of healthcare is a lot different than anatomy and physiology.
All the more reason to document your processes and how you do what you do.
But sometimes it has a certain intuitive finesse that's not not teachable.
See, that's a problem.
No,
right?
for
Because
for you, not for me.
I'm
like,
it's
it's like
not
surfing.
hold
It's
on.
like flying a kite.
It's
like,
not a problem for you, but it's going to be a problem for every person you hire who you expect to have those skills from watching
wait
you.
a second. If you're flying a kite, it's about keeping the kite in the air. I'm not sure how you're doing yours and what your stick stuff looks like, but hey, both our kites are up there flying. Now mine's kicking the shit out of yours. Like, you're going down.
I mean, there's a little bit of both that I agree with, right? Because I want somebody to tell me there's point B, you're at point A. I need you to get to point B. Yeah. And then if you tell me, okay, along the way, you're going to run into this and you're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, you lost me at point A point 1. Shut the fuck up. I'll get to B, right? Yeah. But to your point, to train somebody else to get to B based on what I've done, the documentation is very important, right? In order to teach. And I get that, because this happens a lot, right? A senior salesperson on your team can do something for 20 years and absolutely destroy.
Yeah, they crush it.
And they crush it, right? Mm-hmm. You bring in a junior sales guy and you say, I want you to do that. I want you to watch him and I want you to do what that guy does. Mm-hmm. And what do? They freaking fail because they don't have what he has.
Exactly. Yeah. So they don't have the 20 years of experience of having all those conversations, right? And it's the martial arts equation, right? You can be really great at doing martial arts and not be able to teach anybody anything.
But I want to keep going on this because I want to tell you where your process also fails by too much documentation, because that person has to find his own fucking way the same way the first guy did. If he tries to follow the script, they're not the same person.
No, I agree with that, right? Which is why with everybody that I work with, I don't give them scripts to go say, right? Because I don't think that that's helpful, right? I think the scripts do more harm than good in most cases.
So my point
but outside of that, you talked about documenting a process and sticking to that, right? Yeah. And I think there's where the nuance comes, right? There's the art and science. You're talking about the science and we're talking about the art.
Well, that's why I always say is that, well, and to that point, I always talk about the 30,000 foot view versus the color of the furniture in the house, right? So,
well, okay, but here's the deal, right? If you hire someone to be a salesperson, right, and they go out and they do it their own way and they're failing, and then they come back and they're like, hey, I'm struggling.
Yeah, sure.
Right? At that point, it's on you to like help that person out.
Most people struggle because of fear or greed, right? Not so much over a particular process.
Mostly
they're
fear.
just afraid to go do it, right? Or they're too egotistical and too greedy, and they just don't have the nuances to get around some finesse points, correct?
I agree. I agree with that. I don't know if that, to your point, if that's what you were getting at. I do agree with that. That there's a lot of personality that plays in this.
Absolutely.
So
attitude.
But when you're the leader, right? When you're the sales leader, the owner, the founder, the head of the sales team or whatever else, and you want someone to do something a certain way, right? Because a lot of people have that mentality, right? I want you to do it my way, just watch me and then go do it. And then when they don't do it that way and you're going to be mad at them, that's on you. Yeah, that's on you for not giving them the right tools, the right information to go do.
I was going to say that's bad.
Well.
That's bad leadership.
Absolutely, it is.
But also to that point, like I got to give my guys, and even myself, right, kind of a boilerplate language, contract language of which is what I would call the 30,000 foot view, right? Mm-hmm. I need you to get from A to B and then B to C. The in between, the down and dirty, language of how you get there from A to B, that's on you to figure out, right? And when if you're not there, to your point, like if you're not getting there as quick as I thought you could, we probably need to have some conversations along the way. But as a good leader, you need to draw that information of why you're not there. What can I do to help you? That's very different than giving them a roadmap.
Speaking of leadership, but you just left the masses who sit here and they're either tormented or encouraged by this leadership, either lack or adequacy.
Well, then you have to become an inner leader for yourself.
Oh,
right?
I completely agree.
So if you don't have that above you, you gotta dig down deep and either get the hell out and go find a good
or
leader
go take that guy's job,
or you got to go take the guy's job. I agree with that.
Yeah, take the guy's job or get another company to work for. Don't ruin yourself over a bad situation. And there are going to be some bad situations because you're going to have some guys who are your managers that are financially stressed, and maybe you're tied down tight and you're thinking my business is solid. I'm going to do all the right things, but the infrastructure above you starts to fall apart. What do you do then?
Well, and I'll tell you this. I think General Patton had people that would follow him into combat any day of the week, and they were badass soldiers. But there was also badass soldiers that wouldn't follow him anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. They were both very good at their job. but they chose a leader that fit them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big portion of it too, is that it's not always just because you have a great leader that you're just going to naturally follow that guy. It doesn't work for everybody. We talk about, DISC up here all the time. Those personalities don't match, and it happens in employee to leadership and leadership to employee all the time.
Sure.
So you can't draw a roadmap for every situation. You can draw a template to follow.
Yeah.
Very different, right?
Okay, guys, I want to throw this out here because I know this is a very current topic. We're going to visit this over a couple of different episodes as this unwinds in our own lives and in your lives as well. Yeah. So this won't be the last that you guys ever hear
talking about the coronavirus.
About this, because I think it's a great life example. We probably get this will probably be the only time in my life, other than 9/11, because I came through that as well. Mm-hmm. These are very similar events, right? Because I remember literally showing up to my clinic, black and white TV in there, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, right? Yeah. And we... no airfare for 3 days. And I mean, that was minuscule to what potentially this could be. Yeah. And like I said, I've made more money coming out of that because of obviously stimulus. Mm-hmm. And, I sit more left than I do any other position on that gamut. Mm-hmm. And the government came in, under Clinton's administration, right? And we put some government things into.
Wait, when?
No,
Clinton was Bush.
It was Bush. My apologies.
9/11 was Bush.
Yeah. And, literally we had everything that we needed in my arena, and it ended up we made it through.
Excuse me. No, coronavirus.
I was going to say no, he does not have the coronavirus, or we don't think he does.
I figure I've already had it 3 times and got through it.
Well,
because I'm a bad mother effer.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This pains me to say this, but like I think if anything, it's going to help me. Right, because like I think as people struggle to sell, they're going to be looking for help and process and and things like that. So
that's a good point. But how do you get there? How do you have that conversation? Right?
What do you mean?
Because I think there's some bluntness that I would have as a D, and I think you probably would do this too.
Give me an example.
So for example, you reach out on a cold call, right? How is the coronavirus affecting your sales, and do you have data tracking? Because there's no better time than right now to have that information.
I don't even talk about data tracking on my.
But the point of it is
because no one sees any value in it.
But they might now, and that's to my point is that this might be the time where those direct things that wouldn't have worked a week ago will work now.
And I actually have a caveat to that as well, because if they're not documented on what good looked like, right? Getting back there can be kind of difficult.
Oh, for sure, right? And that's the thing, right? Like this is really the thing that we haven't talked about is that a lot of salespeople, there's a stigma of like the sales guy brings in any work he can possibly can because he just wants to make some money or whatever. And what I have found is that working with teams is like that's not true. They're not trying to just screw over the people that are on the fulfillment side of the house. It's just that there's a lack of clarity there, right? And that's most of what I'm doing, right? Is I'm trying to help people like hone and give them kind of templates and things like this so that way they can go sell better and it's a little bit easier to replicate. I'm not saying that I sit down and I'm like, this is your script and this is how you have to say it because I hate scripts, right? I'm not going to read a script. I don't think it helps, right? Because, there's little things that you're going to miss when you're just reading off a piece of paper, right? Sure. Tonality and things like that. So I don't talk about data on the front end, right? I talk about, reducing gaps and getting people using the same language and bringing in high quality like prospects and not selling at a discount and these kinds of things.
So that hit on another thing. If you can find somebody in stress, right, and offer them a plan back to normalcy, right? So be looking at how you normalize your accounts that may be in disarray and build your own internal game plan to stabilize any way that you can through your product, your line of service, your contacts, your understanding of the business that you're in, and be a leader in returning to normal if this really gets out of whack, right? Yeah. And what does that look like, and how do you get there?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a thinking man's game. Don't think that sales isn't, because this is when you put your thinking cap on, because this is going to, I've had 3 phone calls, and every one of them are to guys that make more money than me and have bigger operations. I'm like, how are you going to monetize the coronavirus in healthcare?
You make masks.
Well,
right? The government has already said that they'll buy out for the next 18 months any mask anybody can buy.
I'm not in a position to do that.
I
So
know, right?
next
But
would be
think
okay,
along those lines,
but I'm
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that doesn't stop me from thinking about when life gives you lemonades, and I've texted this 3 or 4 times to my providers. When life gives you lemonade or lemons, you make lemonade. And I even texted, we made some badass lemonade because we started offering B12 shots.
I was going to say
on a walk-in basis to boost people's immunity. We gave 45 of them yesterday, right? And we can't get enough B12 in our clinic.
I was going to say, to that point, your lemons right now is that you have clinics.
Yeah.
You have a brick and mortar clinic to get tested if that goes that route, right? So
or somebody that you can talk to. If you call us, we're not going to ignore you.
But you know what's funny is, along the same line, I'm in construction, but I also have a big brick and mortar training facility, square foot wise, that if you needed a facility, maybe that's myself for the month to cover my, so like that's way outside the box, but it's not.
You have to start thinking outside the box. But you have to know, you have to understand how to get back to normal as well, right? Because after 9/11, there was a lot of disarray, and it took a minute. Not like this could be a far worse situation
or long term,
but we had to struggle to get back to normalcy. How do you get back to flying? And then you had the National Guard and all of the things that were different but still the same. We'll go through that transition. Guys, don't bury your head in the sand. Put your thinking cap on. Start digging into what's going on in your industry.
So here's my thought in construction, and all you construction people out there, I guess you can have this nugget.
That's what we're here for. Look, begrudgingly. What a dick. What a dick.
Hey, as long as you're not in my market.
What a dick.
So, what I've been thinking,
I would have given it to you for free.
Yeah. I'm giving it to you for free. I've been thinking a lot about
You're a
this.
good man.
Is how do I convey to my customers, how do I, in construction, how do we basically quarantine a job site on a daily basis? What can I do on the way in and on the way out that protects the job site while we still work, right? Is that going to cost me an extra 10 grand on the job, or maybe 20 or 30 grand on a $5 million job? I'm taking that risk to cordon off the area to let nobody in or out, put a gate guard there.
Let me throw you a nugget. Look at the semiconductor business, right? Electronic parts, because they have to be ultra clean.
Sure.
And I mean, and not that you have
those facilities.
No, not exactly, because I know you've been in healthcare building and stuff like that. I would say take some of the nuggets you know from that.
Well, that's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
you don't have to take it to that level.
No, I mean,
but,
I've literally
showering, blowing, blowers,
I've absolutely.
negative pressure.
We've done on both sides, the medical field, just even hospitals, right? Operating construction in an operating floor, right?
Yeah.
Surgery's going down on the other end of the hall, and we're doing construction, right?
Yeah.
That there is a quarantine of construction that you do, right? And on the same side of like the microprocessing and the data centers and stuff like that,
and jumpsuits that are just clean
I'm in
suits
Tyvek suits, and I go through the air showers and I get static discharged, right? So that's what I'm saying, though, is how do I bring that to my job sites that's not that place,
great.
right?
There's where your brain needs to be.
Exactly.
There's where your brain needs to be, guys.
Conveying that to your customer now to say, don't let this scare you because I have a plan.
Yeah.
Guess what, guys?
Be the guy with the plan.
You might be the only one with a plan. You're to that point.
Or even if it doesn't come to that, how does your account going to feel when you were the only person who called them and said, "Hey, this crossed my mind. Have you guys thought about this that might help your?"
You're a rock star.
God, you're
it's
part of the solution.
Fruit.
It is, because fear. If you can quell fear, even to just pat somebody on the arm and go, "Hey, we'll talk about it. Let's figure this out."
Hold on real quick. You don't even need a solution. Just call and be like, hey man, how are you guys doing? Are you guys worried about this? How are you doing?
Yeah, I agree. And I was just, because I come from farming world in my head, I was thinking farming, right? Because grain shipments stop because you're scared of spreading that all over the world, right? Grain, meat markets.
They're highly
seafood,
sensitive to disease and destruction.
So how do you document? For a farmer like in Middle America, you don't do paperwork. You're not a paperwork person, right? You're a farmer, man. I get up every morning, I dig ditches, I harvest corn, I put it in grain bins, I ship it out, right? How do you document now, or how to get help to document to say everybody that's touched this product of mine has been tested, there is no contact with any, here's my documentation to prove it, buy my corn over their corn. They don't have that, I do. It's a preemptive strike, right? That may just be the winning ticket, right? So there's But like to this point, that's where your brain just constantly needs to be in this.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I ran into today or yesterday, we had to reorder some script pads and stuff, supplies, and I called up the copy place, and they said, "Well, call ahead." We had to change some stuff, so it wasn't like a reorder. So I needed to take them examples and be physically there to explain adding a provider and so forth. And they said, "Well, call ahead of time because our lobby's closed." And at first, I thought, "Oh, they must be doing some construction or something, and I've got to walk around and do something different." No, it was the coronavirus. So they're only they come meet you at the door. And I guess if you look sweaty and tired, you're not coming in. They got a little. And hold on, I'll even give you this because we've even spoken this. Having kind of the sacrificial lamb that's out there testing people for fever, right? With just a little scanner.
I agree. Yeah.
And they know they get a 14-day vacation to stay home and pick somebody in the bell curve that's right in the middle that's not going to suffer as much. But these are all things that should at least be kind of marinating. Maybe they apply, maybe they don't. But you're in this business and you're not leaving during this crisis. Why not start thinking about solutions in your own world?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's very to the point. I think that,
and I think that shows value in your industry. That shows good community value. That shows that you care about your customers. That you care about your well-being.
So basically,
don't sit on your hands.
Yeah, do not sit at home.
That is, to me, is leadership 101. I think that to think that way, that's leadership 101, right? Is how do we get everybody through this as a team and we get there successfully?
You are a socialist. Come join the team, brother. I'm about to get bitch slapped over here, and I probably sort of deserve it, but go ahead.
Well,
All right. Do we got to throw down on this?
I think we do.
yeah.
Let's go. Clinton,
Team-
side part, Bigelow.
Team D.
Team D. What you got?
Do you notice I'm working it back to the center to the old way?
Is it gradually moving back?
yeah.
Is it?
He was wearing a badass cowboy hat earlier, man.
Every
You need to
day.
be able to figure out how to put the headphones on the
I can do
cowboy
it.
hat.
Yeah.
Next episode.
Eyes squinted
I like that.
closed
I think
by
you
the
should.
sun.
By the sun. He's
Yeah,
a bad.
Tombstone.
Yeah,
Johnny
man.
Tyler.
Johnny.
Go ahead. Team D.
The Mad
or
Cat.
construction. Where you going with that shotgun?
So I think we've said it a million times, is being proactive, right, and just coming up with solutions that I think that your competitors, and this might be a throwdown for all of us right here, but being proactive and doing something, just something, might be the winning ticket, because other people that are recluse and they go back into their corner and they say, well, we're just going to fail and I'm gonna sit here and watch the sunset. Those people will absolutely fail because they haven't even tried. So if you're gonna fail, at least try, at least do something. That's my nugget.
Al, Team I, or healthcare, whichever.
Well, Team I and healthcare and just in general, be part of your community. And, the quack is coming out. Be part of your community. Be part of your sales group. Be part of your sales team, and be astute in that. This is weighing heavy on other people. Maybe weighing heavy on yourself. Figure out how you're going to personally get engaged in the process of getting back to normal. And if we have to stay abnormal for an extended period of time, what does that mean, and how is that going to affect you? And how are you going to overcome it? Not how is it going to affect you. How are you going to come out the other side as well as you can?
Okay. Nanette?
It's pretty close to what Al just said. I just think it's really important to not look at this and just think the sky is falling, everything is horrible. I think that is complete hyperbole. Think beyond yourself at this point and look how you can help someone else. I think people always win when you think beyond yourself. Try to think of a way to help others.
For Team C, I think this is going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but there's a lot of technology out there. So you don't, if you're in biz dev, right, and you're having a bunch of coffees, a bunch of networking and stuff, you can do that via Zoom and Skype and do that from your home. I've had a digital coffee on my calendar link forever, right? So like if someone is not here local, but they want to get to know me, awesome, book time on this thing and we'll do it via Zoom, right? So that way I can, have relationships with people, even if they're not in my immediate area. Now,
That's cool.
I'm not going to coffee shops, right, to go sit down with, pretty much anybody these days, right? Because it's like, cool, let's do it via Zoom
We love
or
Zoom.
Skype or something else along those lines.
Zoom's
And then, how are you going to adapt? There's so much technology out there, right? And then the other thing is like, know what it takes for you to get to business. Like, know your KPIs and know the behaviors you have to do to get to business, and manage those and see what kind of different results you're getting, and then adjust as necessary, right? I mean, a lot of your territory planning is about adjusting, right? Trying something, if it doesn't work, adjust. And then if you got to throw it out because it's not productive at all, then you do. But that doesn't happen whenever you're just throwing it and winging it, right? Have a process, know what you're doing, use technology as possible, and just stay safe. And Al made a really good point, right? Call your clients and talk to them, right? This is a golden opportunity for you to reach out to everybody you are working with and having a 3-minute conversation, and you're going to set yourself so far apart from everybody else who they're working with or talking to or something along those lines. So that's all I got.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. So
stay safe, wash your hands,
Soap and
bump
water.
elbows, kick heels, this
wave.
is
just fucking wave.
yeah.
Wave.
Hold on. Funny, nobody's ever, that's
Right.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Shoot a peace sign,
Clint's
hang
gonna do
loose.
jazz hands with it. Hey, super happy to see you. So,
all right, guys.
Yeah, if you've been listening and you're not following us on social media, please do. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything is at Sales Throwdown. If you don't know where you are, right, you probably do if you've been listening to us for a little bit. But some people kind of ride the line between two different lines, and you should know which one of these things is stronger, because that's what you're going to revert to when you're under pressure and under stress. If you haven't taken one of these assessments and you want one, please reach out to us, assessments@salesthrowdown.com. We'll get you hooked up. We can't have them on the website due to some limitations of our agreement, but just reach out. We're not going to high pressure you, obviously. If it's a no, that's fine. If you know someone else in sales and they're struggling with this, or if they're not sure how they're going to handle coronavirus, please share this with them along with all the other ones.
Yeah, call us with your questions. We'll try to figure it out for you.
Yeah. Leave a review. We read every one of them. They're super important to us. And yeah.
If you think you're on #Team D and you think you're a higher D, I'd be more than happy to compare disc assessments.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Anybody
Who can be the biggest?
And we can have a little competition.
Anybody who's like higher of a D than you is not listening to this podcast, because
Well,
they think they
First of all, it's impossible because I'm 99.8.
Well, wait a second.
And the 0.2 didn't
He's
register.
actually the president, right?
He's not only president, he's also a client.
No,
Air
he's lucky if he's within 3 points of me.
Wow.
Awesome, everybody. Stay safe. Keep going. Protect yourselves, and just keep looking forward. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.